You picked up $600. Rentals. Anyhow, David.
Jordy Gray. But we have to charge you.
Yeah, you ready? Yeah. You guys ready? You just leave the charge on this. Yeah, I'll go ahead and call to order the meeting. We'll do roll call. We'll do a pledge of allegiance. Mike, step out for a second. Okay, we'll give him 1 second.
And Schnitz. Why don't you sit closer, Dan? You'll have less to walk. Good evening, Ben. Good.
Yeah. Are we ready? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to call to order this special workshop for today, July 20th, 2023 at 7:02 p.m. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky.
Here.
Commissioner Hudak.
Here.
Commissioner Preston.
Here.
Vice Mayor Parnes.
Here.
Mayor Gans.
Here. If everyone could please stand for a moment of silence in our pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. City Manager, I'll let you take the reins from here.
Thank you, Mayor David Santucci, City Manager. Good evening, Commission, members of the public. The purpose of today's workshop is to provide the City Commission and the public an update on the status of the negotiations since the last time this item was before you, and also in preparation of this item coming back before you on August 1st. So tonight is just a workshop. We're here to present the information to you. On August 1st is when you would be asked to take some kind of action. The purpose really is also so that we can provide you with the steps that were taken through the negotiation process, the various attributes of each bid in accordance with the criteria that was in the original ITN, how we took a deeper dive into some of these things, the various negotiation meetings we had. For the purposes of this meeting, we did make the 2 top-ranked restaurateurs who the City Commission had authorized us to enter into concurrent negotiations with. We did make them aware of this meeting, but we did not ask them to prepare presentations, be prepared to speak. I'll be doing that tonight and showing the information to you. And therefore, any questions that you have that I cannot address, we will go ahead and take those questions and make sure that you get answers before or at the August 1st commission meeting, if they are pertinent to answers that need to come from each or one of the restaurateurs. So with that, I'll go ahead and begin. And just a little bit of background here. So the current lease for the current restaurant expires on October 2023. We did authorize the administrative extension for that lease. So there is no lease extension beyond October of 2023. Commission did direct us to issue an invitation to negotiate back in December. And the things that we discussed at that time, and I did provide to you the presentation that we gave back in December, and based on feedback that we had received and our experience with the first ITN that we did over 10 years ago, were to look at a longer term agreement, which may bring in more and higher caliber restaurateurs to take a look at this property. Also, use of the observation deck was something that the commission was willing to entertain, as well as the ability to construct a fixed awning over the existing east side of the building where the outdoor restaurant space is. Also, the service of alcohol. And all of this would allow us to explore the current market conditions of where we are 10 years later with our beach and the condition of our beach. And with that, we also loosened slightly some of the requirements that we had in the first bid, which from that experience made us see that we were a bit more restrictive than what the market really is looking for in restaurateurs. And I'll give you the example of discussing whether or not we should put a panini maker in the kitchen or not. Like, these are sort of things that, let the restaurateurs decide what kitchen equipment they need, how best to run the restaurant. Let us decide what is best for the city of Deerfield Beach in terms of menu offerings, price points, decor, these sorts of things. And that's what we focused on. The opportunity, the ITN, was advertised for 60 days. It's a longer period of time than what we normally do. But when you're asking for this level of detail from potential restaurateurs, you need to give them the time to provide you with the due diligence that they need in order to provide you quality proposals. We did receive and evaluated 3 proposals through the ITN process. And when we came to the commission back on, I believe it was June 20th, we brought forward a recommendation to authorize negotiations with the top 2 ranked firms. So just another look. I won't go into the detail on this for each and every row here, but this just depicts all the publicly noticed and accessible meetings that transpired for this particular solicitation, opportunities for the public to speak, to see the information, to be a part of the process, up to and including this one, and of course on August 1st as well. This was the evaluation criteria that was in the ITN document itself. So we were looking at these various criteria and providing a weight to them in the scoring matrix. And one of the things that we know we've heard is, why is lease payment not the heaviest weight on this? And, you know, I think ultimately that's probably something that each and every one of you could opine on. But from my perspective, we're dealing with a public facility and not a private enterprise. And so not always in this case will the best and biggest amount of money that comes to the city of Deerfield Beach necessarily bring the best restaurant to the city of Deerfield Beach, at least envisioned by the commission. So we did not put as much weight on the price in the evaluation process as we did these other factors. I think it's important to point out that the top 2 ranked proposers through the ITN process were very close in score. Total amount of points that were available that could be awarded were 100. I believe they were both in like the 85 range, somewhere around there, and about a 1.5 apart. Next slide, please. So now I want to get into a little bit of the design concepts. Obviously, these are not my designs, so I'll just point out to you some of the aspects that I've noticed about these designs as we go through them. We're going to start with LMR. So, and just for, I think, to make it easier, so LMR is the same restaurateur who owns the Cove. So, and you can kind of see here their concept of a more open air experience, similar to probably what they have over there at the Cove. So you can see that the structure does not have the windows, it's more open. When we talked about the awning and the use of that, their idea is that the awning extends from the structure out over the leased area that was provided for within the ITN and continues past the walkway, as you can see it there. One thing that you're going to notice throughout is the seating that is on that would be the east side of where the public space is. And you can see that extending underneath the observation deck. So I'll just address that now. We had several conversations with LMR and said, you know, these seats are outside the leased area. What are you proposing here? And LMR's response was that they believed in order to maximize the use of the restaurant, the space to activate the area, they believed that additional space along the edge and underneath the observation deck would be the best thing for the area and to activate the restaurant and so on and so forth. Now, ultimately, they said that they would live within the leased space. Okay, so they did make that condition to us that they would work within the lease space that was provided for in the ITN. I will also say that Deerfield Beach Cafe LLC, which is also the same restaurateur as Oceans 234, they also commented that the use of additional space would be of benefit. However, their proposal was exclusive of any additional seating from the time that they submitted the proposal to the time that we got their final best and final offer. Next slide, please. Here, obviously, is a westward facing depiction of the concept from LMR. You can see that they are looking to utilize the observation deck and the concept in which they have to use it, which is high top and low top seating on the perimeter with a bar setting in the middle. I can keep this here just so you can absorb it or move on. Just go ahead and next slide, please. Here's a depiction of the easterly facing on the west wall. Obviously, they're looking at removal of some windows and perhaps some structural elements to open up the floor space a little bit more. This is something that they're looking to do in their proposal. Next slide, please. Here is a little bit closer view of the observation deck. Of note here would be that with the concept, and we'll get into a little bit more into the menu offerings and things like that. But for LMR, the menu that you see for the inside is the same menu for the outside, which is the same menu for the upstairs. They believe that is the best way to do it, to provide the same menu offerings no matter where you are. And to do so, they'd be using obviously the downstairs kitchen to provide service to the observation deck. And therefore they're intending to build another stairwell on the west side that would be the service stairwell, if you will, so that they can exclusively have an area to bring food and drink up. Additionally, you can see the depiction of a mural that they're willing to do on that wall as well. Thank you. Obviously, this is a little busy and difficult, but it's a floor plan, and floor plans are. But this is a depiction of what the layout within the floor plan looks like for LMR. Okay, now on to DBC, or Deerfield Beach Cafe, LLC. Next slide, please. Here again is a western facing on the east side of their concept. Again, you can see here that they have an awning that is affixed to the building. It extends to the limit of the outdoor leased area. It includes seating within the leased area, as well as it appears to be a bar area sort of in the center there. That would also be included within that area. One of the things to note, you can see these benches off on the eastern side of the public portion walkway. Not necessarily exactly what they're proposing, but it depicts what they'd be willing to do, and as far as I understand it to be, that they would be willing to put some kind of ancillary table, chair, bench, if you will, that would match their decor on the other side, but it wouldn't be used to service tables. It'd be more for the public to accommodate their grab and go options that we'll talk about a little bit later. Next slide, please. Here's an interior depiction of the decor. And again, a floor plan of the restaurant facility. And the bottom is the western side, and obviously where it looks like sand is, that's where the eastern portion is. Next slide, please. This is just another rendering of looking at the building if you were facing west on the east side. And this is a depiction of how they intend to use the observation deck. The observation deck, as you can see here, includes small center bar, tables and chairs throughout, more loungy type of chairs, it appears. And then on the back wall, that is I believe that is the restaurant or the food service counter, because they would be having food service up there a little bit differently than proposed by the other restaurateur, and I'll get into that in a minute. All right, so some additional considerations that we looked at during the negotiations. Of course, we wanted to make sure that the things that we were contemplating, the things that we were asking of the restaurateurs were consistent with the evaluation criteria, but it offered us an ability to dive a little bit deeper into specific aspects of their proposal that we wanted to get clarification on. So first and foremost, obviously, was the lease payments and the revenue sharing. When we entered into the negotiation meetings, following the approval of the city commission to concurrently negotiate with them, we notified them that we'd be looking for their best and finals when we did meet with them. We also looked at the qualifications and experience of their principals and staff, their service concept, their design observation deck how they conformed with the ITN scope, the procurement process, and the direction of the city commission, or at least the vision that we believe was provided to staff as we met back in December and got direction from you of what to include and what not to include in the ITN document. We also wanted to get clarification on the construction timeframes and the restaurant downtime that they anticipated through the process, as each one of them are proposing various levels of renovations. So here with lease payment and revenue share, LMR's investment here you can see exceeds DBC's, meaning more construction on the property, more renovation of the property. The starting base, the final starting base that we received from LMR was $275,000. We did clarify that was the price within the lease space. There was some misunderstanding, if you will. Well, it wasn't a misunderstanding. I shouldn't say that. We did receive another price point if they were able to do everything that they wanted to do. And we wanted to make sure that we were comparing apples to apples. So we asked for the price point within the existing lease space, at least as depicted in the ITN. And this was the final number. The annual increase from the 275 is 3.5, and the natural breakpoint revenue share is 5%, same as DBC. For them, with an anticipation of the rent or the lease being commencing on November 1st, they would provide 50% of the rent beginning on November 1st. Then we would receive the full rent within 6 months after permit issuance. The overall term they were requesting was 20 years with 2 5-year renewal options. That was the same for DBC LLC. I will point out that in both instances, they were asking for the same lease point, I believe from the beginning within their proposals. And this is something that staff does support. I think a longer term at the end of the day has resulted in us receiving proposals from these very successful restaurateurs, all 3 of them. But the 20 years is something that staff would recommend. At least this would solidify the lease terms that we have here. We're not sure if a shorter term would affect the pricing. DBC LLC, the capital investment is closer to 2.3, so less renovation, less construction impact. And the starting base rent was $210,000. They're offering an annual increase at 2% with a natural break point and revenue share of 5%. Their full rent, they would begin paying that on May 1st, 2024. And when we get into the construction timeframes, that lease payment start date will make a little bit more sense. Okay. Next slide, please. Both restaurateurs, and this is consistent with the qualifications experience requirements in the ITN document, both have 10 or more years of restaurant operation experience. Both are highly qualified. LMR currently operates many restaurants, dozens of restaurants throughout the nation, mostly in Florida and North Carolina, and of course here in Deerfield Beach. They also have shown that they are skilled in restaurant design and construction. DBC, again, 10 years or more of restaurant operations, highly qualified, currently operates a restaurant in Deerfield Beach, and has shown skill in restaurant design and construction. Next slide, please. So the service concept, a little different here, and this is where opinions can vary. So first, LMR is looking to provide full table and bar service on the first floor in the observation deck. So I pointed that out when we looked at the observation deck pictures that they had, which is the menu offering on the first floor is the same as the outside, which is the same as the upstairs. How they service it is just a little bit different than what DBC will be doing, using the creation of a stairwell for the service stairwell. They would serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Their initial hours of operation that they are anticipating is 8 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. and the observation deck from noon to 10:30. Now, LMR said that they will evaluate the operational hours based on demand. So if they see that there is more of a crowd that wants breakfast at 7 a.m., they would adjust their hours accordingly. So they have some wiggle room in there. This is really for them their starting point of how they think it will work out in the beginning. For DBC, the menu offerings different. Okay, so the first floor would provide the full table service and bar. However, they would also have grab and go options on a separate menu for grab and go service. So think of your chicken wraps or quick sandwich, yogurt parfait, but little small bites to eat, things like that are much quicker to go back out to the beach or use some sort of public bench to sit and eat and that sort of thing. The observation deck would also have something different, which is a tapas menu, or for lack of a better term, appetizer menu. So they would actually have cooking equipment up on the observation deck to provide service of things like chicken wings or a brick oven pizza, small, things like that they can use for this specialized equipment that they will be putting up there. They would also be doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they're anticipating their hours of operation to be 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and the observation deck from noon to 9 p.m. Again, same response as LMR, that they would evaluate the demand and adjust operational hours accordingly. Design. Now, as I read this, I think the word demolition honestly is a little bit too strong. So I'm going to just change it on the fly and say that with LMR, the design includes more substantial reconstruction and renovation of the facility on the east, west, and south sides of the first floor to create more open water views. So you saw that throughout their design. And what it really means is that they'd be removing many of the windows, they'd be removing many of the openings. I'm not sure if there would be anything structural that they would need to, remove or change. I think that would all come out within the permitting process, but we know for sure that they do intend to have that open air, that open air look and feel. The proposed fixed awning over the first floor extends from the wall over the entire length of the area. It includes construction of bar and secondary observation deck staircase for the food service. They want to do a complete kitchen redesign. The scope of their project, our belief, is going to require a little bit more permitting time. The construction duration is 6 months, and if that's the case, they intend not to start construction through season. So they would begin construction after season with proposed grand opening of November 2024. So just to backtrack that, open date, the current restaurant lease ends in October 2023. Can you go back to the slide that shows the lease term payments? Thank you. We get 50% of the rent beginning on November 1st, and then full rent 6 months after permit issuance. So they'd be diligently pursuing permits, but they anticipate that the construction timeframe will be, I believe, approximately 6 months. You can go back to the other slide. All right. Here, we're not looking as much of substantial demolition to any of the structural elements or windows and door elements of the building. They may perhaps, want to, change out a door, but in terms of where the openings are, we didn't notice anything there of any substantial change. The proposed fixed awning over the first floor outdoor patio, you can see it's a cloth-based or a canvas-based structure, extends out to the leased area provided within the ITN. It includes construction of the observation deck, bar, and food service area, not just as, but similar to LMR. They would remodel the existing kitchen space. The scope of the project, we believe, would require less permitting time. The construction duration is approximately 5 months, and they would begin their construction immediately or as quickly as they could, pending execution of a lease agreement. And their proposed grand opening would be around April 2024. Now, when you talk about proposed grand openings, we know how construction looks like. So this is what they're anticipating at the moment. Observation deck, and what are the similarities and differences? Again, with LMR, you've got a full bar, full menu service on that observation deck. They would provide that service with the second stairwell that they would create, and that food would come up from the newly revised kitchen. They would designate public seating along the east rail of the deck. No purchase necessary to sit. Within their design, what you can't see and what they have said in negotiation meetings, what they would do is create basically what's called a peanut gallery. So it's a counter height bar with stools that would go along the outside perimeter, or at least the eastern side of the observation deck for anyone, public, guests, patrons to use on any basis. So the deck would be open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. We believe it is a workable option, and we will reevaluate, and they will reevaluate it after operational commencement for any, tweaks that they may need to do. But that's how they intend to use the observation deck. With DBC LLC, again, you're looking at the separate menu from the downstairs, tapas menu, full bar. Service from the deck pizza oven. The morning programmed for recreational and public access. So what I believe that they are proposing is to allow for the observation deck to be open to the public in the morning up till 3 p.m. And the deck itself would be open from noon to 10 p.m. We believe it's a workable option. Again, they're willing to evaluate after operational commencement. Conformity to the ITN and direction of the City Commission. Something important that I think we evaluated. The response to the ITN included seating for LMR. The response to the ITN included seating outside of the allowed lease space. It provided the best and final during the initial negotiation meeting, but then submitted a revised best and final after that meeting, which prompted us to hold a final negotiation committee meeting where we asked for our written best and finals. And it was at that meeting where we were provided a best and final of $325,000, which was different from the email one that was submitted to us earlier. And then that's when they were pressed to provide what is the best and final for the leased area in which is in the ITN. And that's when we got that final number. They provided revised best and finals verbally. Again, we already went through that. And we did not see, again, one consistent menu, which is good, but we didn't see that grab and go service component that was outlined in the ITN. With DBC, the response to the ITN was consistent with the oral presentations, and that was also consistent through the negotiation process. The best and final was the same that we received in each stage of the negotiation process. They provided the same best and final offer, that they previously had presented, and it does provide for that grab and go service. So again, looking at the construction time frame and restaurant downtime, the construction start time for LMR would be around May of 2024, subject to building permits. DBC would begin as soon as they could after November 1st, subject to building permits. And construction completion dates here, as we've already talked about. And it looks about a 12-month process for LMR and about a 7-month process for DBC. Next slide, please. So we wanted to provide a summary of the things that we just talked about, and where from staff's perspective, each restaurateur kind of was a little bit above the other one, or a little bit below. Again, I understand that when you're talking about design concept and you're talking about menu offerings, it can be subjective, but at the same time, we tried to do this envisioning that meeting that we had back in December and what we believe to be the direction of the commission of what they were looking for. At the end of the day, ultimately, the decision is up to the commission. Okay. We definitely obviously have brought forth a recommendation to you based on what we believe to be consistent with your direction. But ultimately it's up for you to decide. Next slide. So we are recommending to the city commission based off the ITN criteria that the award go to Deerfield Beach Cafe LLC. His proposal meets most of the criteria and represents the best value to the city of Deerfield Beach. So what are the next steps? First, I want to remind everyone that a cone of silence is still in effect. So outside of a public meeting, communications are still under the cone of silence. On August 1st will be when the Pierre Restaurant Lease Award Resolution comes before you. So that's when we'll be asking you to make an award. However, it also requires us to do a lease approval. And this lease approval, because of the length of time that it is, it requires 2 readings. So the first reading would be on the 15th, if approved by the city commission on the 1st. And then we would look to expedite the second reading and piggyback off the CRA meeting on August 22nd, the second reading of the lease approval ordinance. Again, the current lease expires on October 28, 2023, and we're pursuing a new lease commencement date of November 1st, 2023. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to address any questions that you may have. Again, I may not have the answers, but if I cannot answer them, I'll ensure that those questions are relayed to the proposers and answers are provided to you prior to or at the commission meeting on August 1st.
One of the restaurants says they can open in April and the other in November. Being in that business for 15 years, my feeling would be to open in April would be a big advantage of getting the bugs out and getting it run smooth before the season. You open a restaurant in November and people are starting to come in. You don't have time to fix up what's wrong. I've opened a number of restaurants and I know what it's like when on opening day, the cook don't show up or waiters get confused with tables, and it takes a little while to get used to the system. We always try to open during a slow period so that we can train our personnel to be like that, one team working together. Secondly, we'd be collecting rent a lot sooner with one than the other. Am I correct? One opens in April, the other in November.
Correct, but the
These are just questions.
okay, so I will answer that for you. LMR is proposing to begin providing 50% rent at commencement of the lease, which is November 1st. And then I believe it's 6. Let me just get there. And then full rent 6 months after permit issuance. Okay. So, and then DBC LLC is proposing full rent beginning May 1st, 2024.
Okay.
Commissioner Preston? Mr. City Manager, I would like to ask you a question. That question is, as you began to talk with these 2 companies, did you ever relate to them how the city of Deerfield Beach is laid out? It was their concept of putting in what they were going to do. Is it consistent with our residents?
So I'll go back to the December meeting where we asked for input of what the city commission was looking for. And outside of anything that was inconsistent with the previous restaurant RFP, which included the bullet points that I showed earlier, which included use of the observation deck, the ability to put an awning over the outside, the sale of alcohol. We kept the criteria and the concept of what we were looking for consistent with that RFP. So family friendly, menu prices that were affordable, things of that like.
My thing
Likeness.
is, my thing is that you have a lot of residents, in the city of Deerfield Beach, that have been here for years and years and years. And there are times that they would just like to go down to the beach and just, get a lunch, breakfast, or whatever it is in their own city. And sometimes a concept can actually disregard their feelings in coming in. And I would just like to think that that their feelings were considered in the process. Three things, hospitality, food quality, and affordability are things that, a lot of the residents, they embrace those sort of things. And if it becomes more of a tourist type attraction, then we have squeezed out our own resident. And I would just want that not to happen.
Sure. I didn't get the feeling anyone was proposing a rainforest cafe or anything like that, Commissioner. I think I said it jokingly, but I do think that both were very genuine in looking at what would work well for Deerfield Beach, but more importantly, would work well for the residents and visitors of Deerfield Beach. I got that impression from both of them.
Commissioner Hudak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've looked at both of these proposals numerous times before this meeting, as well as listening to it here. And I'm impressed with both concepts. And when I'm looking at them, there's basically two lenses that I'm looking at them with. And I guess I have to decide, as this commission has to decide, on which lens and which vision we have for this particular location. If I'm looking at it as a restaurateur and trying to maximize my profits and the money coming into this area, then the answer is pretty clear. If I'm looking at this as a city resident and knowing that this is still city, citizens, city property, and it is for the residents, and which one gives them the egress and the ability to move around the location, then my answer or my decision is leaning towards another restaurateur. So I think that's what we as a commission have to look at. Do we want to look at this as a profit center that is I mean, both of them are beautiful, and both of them are going to elevate the area there. Are we looking at this as a profit center as a commission, or are we looking this as a place for our citizens, our visitors, and our residents to have the most options? I know we don't have to make a decision tonight, but that's kind of what I'm looking at and battling between what we want for that location. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a LEED certified building, correct?
Yes, it is.
This work that's going to be done to change that, will that change its LEED certification? Will any construction that's going to be done there maintain those standards?
So I think that's going to be one of the questions that I'm going to take back and have to explore a little bit further, Mayor. Make sure you get a response to that.
Okay. We are a long ways from where we were when I first got in office, 2008, 2009. The highest concept, because I kept all my old paperwork from then, was $61,000 plus 6%, anything above 6% on that. And I think we awarded it to someone at 60,000 per year. And 2% of sales over $500,000 in what they did. So, you know, we're a long ways from where we were at all those years ago. But I think that's all the questions I have right now. Vice Mayor Parnas, to you again.
Yeah. I look at this project, both of them are very close. I look at it as a jewel of Deerfield Beach. For both our residents who come to the beach to be able to get either takeout or a decent meal. And it represents the city to all our visitors. We could easily put a McDonald's there. But is that what we want to represent the city of Deerfield Beach and the best beach in Florida? No. I've just recommended an Italian restaurant to friends of mine. Probably the most expensive restaurant in Deerfield Beach, but the food is fantastic. The tables are not one on top of the other. The service is excellent.
Is this a commercial?
No, I'm not going to mention the restaurant, but the point is that there's a market for everything. We can go two ways. We can either put up a cheap slog house that's cheap, or we can have a jewel that people will walk away from and say, hey, when I go to the beach, wow. To me, that's more important because it'll continually bring people back to the beach, knowing that we have a class place that they can come and enjoy, or even take back food to the kids that are staying on the beach. That's the concept that I looked at as a former restaurateur. I owned a place in New York. I managed many, including a food and beverage assistant director of the old Pennsylvania Hotel where Glenn Miller played. We hosted poor people. Steffi Graf, when she won her first US Open, took nine rooms in the presidential suite. What kind of an image do we want? Do we want it to say, hi, Deerfield is a class place? Or do we just want a hot dog stand where people can buy cheap? That's the real question. And the two restaurateurs both run restaurants here in Deerfield that aren't cheap. I've eaten at both. There are a lot less expensive restaurants in Deerfield, but I enjoy sitting, looking at the water at the beach in one of them. And I like the boats that pull into the other one. It says Deerfield Beach, and that's the concept that I like from either one.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Drosky and Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know about my colleagues, but the first thing I'm going to do when I get home tonight is ask my Alexa machine what a schlock house is. Never heard that term before, but I will tonight.
Okay.
I want to thank the committee first. I mean, this is kind of like a commission-esque type conversation, but I do want to take a special moment to thank the committee for all of their work that they put into this, Mr. City Manager, because I have served on committees like this, primarily the city's auditor committee, and it's a lot of work and it's a lot of information to digest and to separate. So I want to thank them for their service and their time for reviewing that and putting it together. Their time does not go unnoticed. Having said that, these two proposals are very close, in my opinion. I said at the last meeting, they're 1A and 1B, and that has not changed, in my opinion. When I saw the renderings, I could tell immediately which one was which to which operator. It was just very obvious to me. But a couple of points during the presentation that I'm going to say that I don't have any problems with is, first of all, I don't have any problems with the 20-year lease term. I think both operators are putting substantial capital into this project, and they're going to need time to make that up. So I don't have an objection to the 20 years. They need to make a profit out of this as well. The fixed awning, the use of the observation deck,
in the service of alcohol. I don't have an objection to any of those points either. I don't know if it's going to be an issue or not, but I'm just gonna make it easy and make things faster for the next meeting. I don't have any objection to any of those three requests. There may be some debate with respect to the proposed rent that the city is getting and whether that should be a factor and how much of a factor it is. Under the LMR proposal, the city receives, and I'm going to use round numbers, through the 20-year lease term, $7.7 million. Whereas the Deerfield Beach Cafe proposal, the city gets $5.1 million. That's about what, $2.5 million difference over the 20-year period. I don't think that's not an apples to apples comparison, though, because as you went through your presentation, one of the proposals has full table service at the observation deck. The other is more of a tapas food. And that same one that has the full table service also has longer hours for use of the observation deck. So if I were to have full table service, full bar service, and longer hours, then I'm going to make more money. So I don't think the proposed rents are apples to apples. So I'm trying to say the difference between the two, maybe not as great looking at it at flush than you anticipate. I think it's a lot closer than it is when you put those factors into consideration. So I still think the proposals are 1A and 1B. I have not made up my mind. I really want to hear from the public what they think, what their vision is, and what these two proposals, how they fit with their vision for the city. So I hope the public has an opportunity to speak tonight. I would like to ask the operators, I know they can't answer, so I'll ask the city manager. I would like to ask the operators one question each tonight. Is anyone here from LMR Cove or online? Okay. So I just want to make sure that I'm looking to you guys. So the city staff has made a recommendation for Deerfield Beach Cafe. So my question to you is, where did the committee get it wrong, in your opinion? Why is your proposal better? And where did the committee get it wrong that you should be the operator and not the other one? What did the committee miss in their evaluation that should elevate you to number one? My question for Deerfield Beach Cafe is, are you comfortable with the bidding process that happened throughout this negotiation period? The best and final came after the committee meeting on July 3rd. Do you have an objection to that? And are you comfortable with the bidding process and the way that this happened with the city? So those are two very important questions that I would like answered at the next meeting. I'd like to hear it from the operators. And I'd love to hear from the public what their vision is, because like I said, I think both these proposals are very, very close.
Thank you, Commissioner Preston.
Without a doubt, the city is going to do well with a choice that there is. But I think it's important that whatever decision that we make, it should be sending a message to our resident in that decision, we were thinking of you. To me, that's important. When I look at the breakfast menu of the two parties, I see one that's a little bit more residential friendly than is the other. Though the other, there are some tantalizing choices there. But when I look at them, I see one that is more of a traditional Deerfield than is the other. And I think, as I said, to reiterate, whatever decision that this commission make, it must say to the public, in making that decision, we were thinking of you.
Thank you. Before I open it to the public, I think one of the key components, ironically, the changes that are being proposed, this is from 2009. This is my document from when we redid the design for what the cove looks, the entrance to our pier looks like compared to what it did years before. And the concepts that are brought forward, it looks very close to what it was originally proposed to be compared to what we have now. It's ironic if you look at it. and you look at what both companies have brought forward, it's extremely close to what was being proposed way back then, a lot more open. That's the old one. That's what it used to look like. So the grab and go component to me is something that's always been missing. It's something that was supposedly going to be part of what is in existence now, and I'll find the old renderings on what was actually given to us, what it was supposed to look like and contain, and we've missed that. We don't have that. So that's a big factor for me on that, looking at that, because I think it falls into the category of what Commissioner Preston and Commissioner Grosky and all of us have been saying, is that what is something that the residents have been looking for. And I think that kind of gets captured a little bit more with one menu than the other, that's been missed, I think, from what had been proposed and what we ended up getting. So that is something I think is interesting to me, along with a lot of other factors. So I'm going to ask you to step aside, and we're going to bring the public up, if that's okay.
Sure, if I may ask a question, and I won't, since I didn't answer all your questions right away, you don't have to answer mine, but obviously on August 1st, the proposers will be available for any questions. And so that they can prepare, I would just like to know if it is if the commission would like to see some sort of presentation by them, or just be available to answer questions and so on and so forth. It's just something to think about, how you would like to have them be presented for their each restaurant too as well. So
Okay. You know, one thing, and it's a question that Commissioner Grosky asked, obviously, in my opinion, the rules of this whole thing were broken by submitting a best and final after the fact, and keep playing with numbers and keep changing it. That doesn't sit well with me, but to me, it's not enough that it's not in the best interest of the residents of Deerfield Beach for us to forego the whole thing and just award it to one because of that technicality, in my opinion. But I just want at least said that it didn't go unnoticed, that I'm not comfortable with, you have the best and final and someone keeps switching it up and they do an email that says one thing and then verbally say another. That concerns me,
I second
but
that.
it's not enough to toss it, because I don't think that would be right for the residents. It might not be fair to the restaurateurs, but I don't think it's fair to the residents, because we have to look at what is in the end best for the city. And okay. Yeah. Yes, we're over to the public, please. Sure, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioner, for this opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, for this opportunity to talk up. Just a few
Sorry, I do need your name and address, Jim.
James McGeary, 1442 Southeast 6th Street, Deerfield Beach. Just a few observations. Number one, the restaurants, one of the two proposals, they're going to stay open till 10:30. We have an issue with turtles, and their lightings becomes an issue. And between March and October, that lighting situation becomes prohibitive for any restaurateur to have their facility open. So that time frame might be something to reconsider. They're proposing, the one proposal is there would be seating under the deck. He wanted to extend tables there. I go to the beach quite often, and if you've gone to the beach, that area under that deck is a meeting point for a lot of different issues, bathrooms, access to the upper deck and what have you. And to permit additional tables there, especially since they're going to add an additional access to the second floor for service, it's going to be a congested area. And certainly for those dining, it's not going to be a comfortable situation. The only motivation, and the manager alluded to it, they can make more money. That's the reason why it's there, but it's going to be an inconvenience for an awful lot of people. If in fact there's a financial issue and under their proposal, they're going to do this construction, what happens if they do not have enough funding? Does any financial liability fall back to the city? That's the question that I believe. It was suggested that this restaurant facility, either one of them, would meet the same criteria as the existing facility in terms of pricing. The manager stated that it's upscale, so the pricing based on the service and the facility is going to be more pricey, which presents a problem for the local residents. We go to the beach, anybody that goes to that beach, got a lot of residents, and they need an inexpensive, convenient place to go. I'm not saying that they shouldn't do modifications, but when you have an upscale facility there, you already have two. You need some facility to make it more convenient for everyone else, for the residents to go up there regularly. And they're my issues, commissioners, and please take them as in your decision making.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera.
Which one of the restaurants do you like the best?
Depends. During the day, I like something I can go in casually and just grab something. At night, the more upscales are fine.
You don't have a preference right now.
Pardon?
You don't have a preference of either of these restaurants now.
Quite frankly, I would rather not have more upscale. And the final thing, access. I don't see any walkthroughs going along the beach area with these proposals. It looks like they have seating. It's going to limit access.
Thank you, Mr. Ruggiero. Your time is up.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Moriarty. Thank you very much for having this workshop for us tonight. Gives us a chance to get our input. I'd like to know, how much time do I have?
3 minutes.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay, then I'm just going to submit this letter that I did send to each one of you, expressing my feelings about some things. So I would like to put this on the record. I went through the lease that was put out, and somewhere I got, whereas the final negotiation lease agreements shall be the subject to consideration by the commission at a later date. Why is the commission considering only two? There were only 3 people that applied for this. And why are you not giving the third person a chance in this whole process? We don't know anything about what they presented. And I just don't think it's fair. It's someone who, in my opinion, it's my #1 place to go when I go to the beach. I think their food is excellent. Their service is excellent. It's my favorite place to go. I don't want an upscale place either. We have enough of those. We have plenty of bars at the beach. 2 right on the beach. We have Flanagan's, we have Antone's, we have Brew's Place. You know, there's lots of places if you want to go to a bar. I went through the criteria and a couple that's kind of stuck out for me: compatibility with the city's objectives. And I'd like to know, what are the city objectives regarding this? Restaurant concept, decor, atmosphere, menu pricing, that was 25 points. What concept, decor, atmosphere, menu, and pricing are you looking for? First one, qualifications, were 30 points. The initial term shall be for a minimum of 10 years with 2 5-year renewals. This is in the original lease. What would prompt the city to not renew a lease agreement? In other words, why would you not renew the lease for someone that's done a really good job, has excellent food? As a resident, it's a place I really like to go to. I went through the objectives. The one that I found kind of interesting is family friendly. Remember, I was back here a lot more when you were doing all of this. And it's a place for beachgoers. We don't need another upscale fancy restaurant. We have plenty of those. Deerfield Beach has a reputation for its beautiful family friendly beach. And this restaurant will be an anchor to the beach area and is expected to reinforce the image and experience. While the restaurant may serve alcohol, the city, can I speak some more? The city does not want to see the restaurant operate as a bar. This was in the original lease. Convenience. When you said a reasonably priced menu, what's reasonably priced? That's very vague to me and can be interpreted in different ways. Community oriented. This is one thing that the current operator is very community oriented. According to what they're asking for here is an atmosphere that continues and enhances the pier entrance as a welcoming and gathering spot. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but the current operator has gone out of her way many times. I know it through the Deerfield Beach Women's Club. She has many times participated in activities. She's, brought things in for us. And, she's just a real community conscious person. I know she does the same thing in other communities where she has restaurants.
Thank you, Ms. Moriarty. Appreciate it.
I wish could say the couple more here I have. And
No, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Denise Bogner, 1157 Southwest 26th Avenue. I'm going to also make some comments on Class Act Restaurant, which is the Deerfield Beach Cafe. What I saw someplace in one of the newspaper articles was that she invested $350,000 into that restaurant and things like that. And she did come to the commission on different occasions on wanting to do other things, and she was not allowed to. So I would like you to keep that in mind when you look at these others also. And what I saw, and I think Marty or Barbara was just saying many of the things I'm going to say, is the items from the face sheet state that the city seeks to achieve a facility that is safe, a clean, safe environment with food and beverage, ensuring that public health is maintained at all times, family friendly. She talked about that. And that's one big thing that I think with the cafe that is there now. We're repeating that again, that is what we do go to. It's convenient, reasonably priced menu, efficiently available at times that facilitate the enjoyment of our beach and pier by both residents and visitors. Environmentally conscious. Now, this was something that one of you guys brought up, an operator that embraces the requirements of operating a LEED certified facility. It's community oriented, an atmosphere that continues and enhances the pier entrance as a welcoming and beloved gathering spot for Deerfield Beach. Destination enhancing, an operation that further activates the Deerfield Beach area and attracts visitors to the destination. I think this is what the cafe has done the years that she has been there, and I would hope that you would reconsider her as option number 3 with the 2 that you're looking at.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, Ms. Bogner?
Yes.
You have a little bit of extra time. Do you want to finish Ms. Moriarty's points for her?
That's very kind of you. Okay. And continuing on.
Sorry, time's up.
Oh,
I'm
dang it.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
You've changed a bit, have you?
No, still a pain in the ass.
Okay. Okay. This and this. Okay. Destination enhancing, an operation that further activates the Deerfield Beach area and attracts visitors to their destination. What does that mean? Isn't that the obligation of the city? What additional visitors are on the list to be attracted? The tenant shall offer a menu that it believes will foster satisfaction and success. The selected operator will also manage the restaurant and its employees in a manner that fosters satisfaction and success. What defines satisfaction and success? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Pam Militello, 88, almost gave my old address.
District 1 Commissioner.
716 Emerald Way West, Deerfield Beach. I lived there 30 years sometimes. And so I have a couple concerns, and some of them have been addressed, but one of them is the length of the lease. I understand they want that because they're sinking so much freaking money into it. If you're putting $4 million into a place, yeah, you're going to want a 20-year lease. And I guess I'm questioning why is that amount of money really needed? You know, you've got Oceans 2, 3, 4 and JBs, which are upscale places right on the ocean. You've got the place at the hotel. You've got several other places, and the restaurant that there now is really more of a family friendly, average style of restaurant where you can go in, you don't feel the need that you've got to get dressed up. You can go in with, you know, sand on your feet and your gang of kids, and you're not going to walk out of there spending a fortune to have breakfast or lunch. And so, you know, if you build something that costs that much and you're going to need a little bit higher food to help pay for it, plus you need the bars to pay for it, you're going to want a 20-year lease. And I would hope that you would kind of look at that, maybe even a 15-year if you're, you know, and maybe scale back some of the changes. Do we really need that there when you've got two beautiful restaurants right next door that offer that type of element? Something to think about. The LMR, I think it is. I'm concerned with that company simply because they do have the Cove and they've done a great job. I believe they bought the hotel property, I believe, same people. So they've got two big pieces of property. And now we're looking at perhaps letting them have a 20-year lease at the pier. And it makes me nervous letting one organization have that much important property in our little city. So the last thing is, I know that we want the alcohol and stuff. You can do beer and wine currently. I have some concerns about putting bars in these places because it's going to change the atmosphere. I mean, let's be honest, it is. And it's up to you guys on what you want to do, but I do have some concerns about putting bars. I mean, I'm fine with alcohol and stuff, but when you put a bar on the ground floor and then you put one up on the observation deck, you are dramatically changing the atmosphere of that restaurant. So things to think about as you go through, and I appreciate you having this workshop for us. Thanks.
Thank you. So are we, it's okay.
Good time.
Marty McGeary, 1442 Southeast 6th Street, Deerfield Beach. Good evening, everybody, and everybody out there as well. Deerfield Beach Cafe. Just the name tells you cafe. What is a cafe? It's generally thought in some words matter, definitions. You think about a small place, not a big place, where people gather, friendly, community, residents, more so than outsiders coming in and putting in. And I think that name tells you what you want. And when that was first named cafe, okay, before that, it was just a little place where you went in and got paper plates and you left right over, and everybody loved it. And there was no air conditioning and there was no anything there, but the building was a mess. So we upscaled to the cafe, and that's fine, but we still kept it for the people. We kept it for the residents mostly, and of course tourists coming in, but it was not a tourist destination. It was a resident destination. And I think that still stands pretty much. This is perhaps the smallest and one of the most valuable pieces of real estate the city owns, right on the beach. And unfortunately, we could have had JBs too, but that didn't work out. But I remember because I was here.
100-year lease. Yeah.
Pardon me?
That was a 100-year lease.
Not only that, but we couldn't get that property. Yeah, that was a 100-year lease forever, but we couldn't get that property. There was a lot of politicking in there. I do have a couple of physical concerns, not just about the atmosphere and what this cafe means to the people and the residents of Deerfield Beach. One of them is all this extra service. I didn't hear anything mentioned about another elevator being put in. You're going to service people with food, alcohol, beverages, whatever kinds of foods you're going to serve, whether they're finger foods or whatever, and you're going to have the same people, the service people, the food service and the servers and the people coming to the residents using the same elevator. You're increasing so much more people there. I don't know whether that's that's a good idea or not. I heard a stairway. There was one proposal that had a stairway. Am I correct? They were going to put in another stairway, and that's a physical thing. Servers are going to run up and down with service on a stairway. I think we need to look at that for the kind of clientele that goes there, for the elderly, for the handicapped, for children, families, and whether are we going to be able to service all these people up and down? That's a major concern. The other one, of course, is taking away that promenade, okay, underneath, and you're not opening it. Okay, weird thing. And I hope there was never consideration for the footprint of this to get larger. But I don't think that we want tables. So I've been kind of remiss. I haven't been around for a while here. I've been really quiet lately, but I felt the need to really, and I think that these are physical things that need to really be looked at in this lease, how they're going to accommodate all these people, they think, and they have to have people come to make the money that they're investing. And it's too upscale, you know? So good luck with this. And the lease is too long. Oh, I had another question. How come there were two Deerfield Beach Cafe LLCs? Why do they have the same name? It's kind of weird. Usually you don't have two, same name. The existing one was the same, and now the other proprietor, Deerfield Beach Cafe LLC, that's kind of weird. I'm just saying that it was strange to me that two companies are the same name.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Appreciate it.
Just as a side thing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else?
Daniel Shinetsky, 34 Keswick B, Deerfield Beach, Florida, 33442. I've been going to the location since 1995 when I used to go with my parents. We'd sit by the beach. I'd visit them. So I know that location. It's beautiful, has a lot of great memories. I think both the companies are very family friendly. I think they gave both great bids, but some things that sort of stick out to me that I just want to address. I like with DBC that it's both indoor and outdoor dining experience. I think that equates both a formal and informal type of atmosphere as opposed to LMR, which is open air. Because a lot of times, as we know, a hot season, rainy season, it sort of negates the open air because we can't be out during that time. I like with DBC that the grand opening will be April of 2024 as opposed to LMN, which is November of 24. That's a 7-month difference. And as Commissioner Parnas said, 7 months means a lot because it's before season. You can get the bugs out. And maybe by the time November will come for DBC, they'll already be having all the turbines, moving, so they'll know what's happening. With DBC, the fact that there's less permitting time, in other words, less demolition, less construction, that makes me more comfortable. What makes me uncomfortable with LMN, all that knocking down walls, that sort of makes me uncomfortable. With DBC, I like the fact that it provides grab and go. This way, it'll be for the beach crowd that they could just grab something and go. So I think it caters to them, whereas LMN doesn't have that. And I think, like the mayor said, that's a big factor. The one thing that does bother me a little bit that Commissioner Dropsky brought out is the rent differential over a 20-year period. LMN taken 7.7 million. DBC 5.1 million, 2.5 million difference over 20 years. 2.5 million is a lot of money. Now, my question is there any way to negotiate to sort of close the gap on that? I think if we could close a gap where DBC gives more rent closer to what LMR is offering, I think to me that would be a closer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? No? Anyone else from the public? And close it to the public. Thank you. It is nice to see some old faces out there. This reminds me of a flashback. I'm pulling out old documents from 2009 and all the crowd that was here from 2009 is in the audience. So it's great to see some old friends out there. Some older than others, but it's great to see all of you. Is there anything else from staff that we need? I know there's some questions. Hopefully we'll have those questions answered for you by the time we have this, our next public meeting on this. But thank you for the input and thank you for the presentations. Here's the reality. Everybody says, well, it's too upscale, it's too upscale. I think what your point is that you're looking for kind of going back to the way it was in which you had many years ago with a cheaper place. You just grab something very simple and easy. Keep in mind when that all went away, the baskets of fries and grabbing a hot dog over there, people didn't want what's there now. Too upscale, too fancy. Now you guys love it. So, because the same argument, I'm having some flashbacks here. So, you know, the reality is it was put out to bid and we got 3 that came forward, all 3 good restaurateurs, really excellent. No one came forward with Burger Shack or hot dog stand. I didn't see anybody coming forward with that. They could have, but they didn't. I think there's a reason. We can't create something that doesn't exist out there. I can't force people to say, this is what you're going to do. We can give them some guidelines. We can tell them what we're looking for and hopefully they can achieve that. And I think price point, as I think we've all talked about, is we do want some cheaper options out there, but we also can't force people to come up with something that they don't want to bring forward to make it work there. That's just the reality. That wasn't our call. It's what people want to bring forward. And this is what came forward. And there's a reason we're down to 2. There's a reason. Presentations, 3, I believe one of them, it's not part of this that was moved to 2, didn't go very well. Wasn't well done. Didn't achieve the goals that were there. So there's a reason that we're here. And I think it's, you know, I think we are in good hands and we still have some work to do and to hear from more people. Commissioner Parnas, did you have something you want to say before we finish up?
Yeah, but I want people to understand something. Regardless of what they're going to charge for prices, people don't frequent the restaurant because it's too high, too elegant, too whatever. They go out of business. People won't go there. So it has to be somewhere where the residents can afford and the tourists can afford. And people say, well, they got to make a lot of money because they're putting in today to build a restaurant is several $1 million. I know, I built one in New York. I know what it cost. And I know what we had to do, stay open till 4 o'clock in the morning to make ends meet. But that was on us, not on the public. We didn't say, well, we're only going to be open 6 hours, so we're going to triple our prices to make our money. Nobody would have come to the bar. Prices are what people are willing to pay. Keep that in mind. So no matter what we put there, if the price is too high and people don't come, they'll fail. They'll have spent $2 or $3 million building a place and going out of business. It's the most risky business there is a restaurant and bar. 90% in this country fail. 90%. So these people are in the restaurant business a long, long time. And they know how to make money. And that is to satisfy people with service, quality, and prices they can afford. Now, I don't know how many tourists go to either one of those restaurants, but they've been in Deerfield a long time. I've eaten in both. Not often, but I have. And if they didn't have the customers, how would they stay in business? So they do. These people know what they're doing. Both these bidders have successful restaurants right here in town. Been here a long time. So understand this. They know what they're doing and they can still fail. But they're willing to put up $3 million, $2 million to renovate a place because they think they can make it successful and a beautiful place for Deerfield. And they're willing to put in the effort, the time, and the money to do it. Yeah, we could put a hot dog stand there. We could make a diner out of it. Call it a cafe if you want, but it's basically a diner. But will that solve the problem? No. If I came to Deerfield Beach as a tourist and I went into the diner or cafe, I go across to the hotel across the street and sit down in their nice restaurant and have breakfast. But that's me. It's a risky business. And I have faith that two bidders right now, give them credit for knowing what they're doing. They wouldn't be investing $2 and $3 million if they figured they're going to fail. They're restaurateurs who've been around a long time. And I have faith in them.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. With that, nothing else from staff. All right, we're gonna adjourn this meeting.
Thank
Looking for a motion.
Second,
Favor?
yes.